What's the point of speaking if your words leave no mark? What's the point of thinking if your thoughts tie you up instead of setting you free? Some people can stop the world with just one sentence. They weren't born different. They just learned to master what you ignore, their mind, their emotions, their actions. And while you hesitate, they move forward. How much longer will you stay behind? In this video, you're going to discover the 10 Stoic keys that will teach you to speak with purpose, think with clarity, and act with determination. Keys that will help you take back control of yourself. Because real power isn't out there. It's within you. It's not about luck or talent. It's about building the inner discipline that turns an ordinary person into someone unstoppable. These aren't empty theories. They're principles used by great leaders and philosophers to stay grounded in the middle of chaos. If you apply them, you'll stop being a spectator in your own life and become the main character. Are you ready to start mastering yourself from within? Before we begin, let me tell you the story of someone who carried a broken voice for years, a mind full of noise, and hands paralyzed by fear. His name is Elias, and his life changed the moment he realized he wasn't weak. He was just full of wounds he never dared to face. Elias worked as a receptionist in an office building. No one really noticed him, and he liked it that way. He didn't stand out. He didn't share his opinions. And when he spoke, it was barely above a whisper, like he was asking for permission. Every word felt heavy. Every glance made him uneasy. Deep down, he felt something was blocking him, but he couldn't name it. For years, he thought he was just shy, introverted, quiet, until one afternoon, as he watched a father yelling at his child at the building's entrance, something inside him broke, and suddenly, everything made sense. His silence wasn't shyness, it was trauma. As a child, Elias grew up in a home where every word felt like a threat. If he spoke too much, he got yelled at. If he had his own opinion, he was punished. His father used to say, "Children speak when they're spoken to." And by obeying, Elias stopped speaking, and worse, stopped thinking for himself. Years later, as an adult, no one was yelling at him. No one was punishing him. But the broken voice was still there. The mental noise, the paralysis, the urge to do something meaningful, without knowing how to start. It was like he was still trapped in a cage that no longer existed, but whose bars he still felt pressing against his skin. One ordinary afternoon, he found an old, coverless book left behind in the break room. The only thing he could make out was a sentence underlined in the margin. It said, "If it's not true, don't say it. If it's not just, don't do it." It was signed by Marcus Aurelius, and that phrase, simple yet sharp, hit him like a silent slap, because Elias had spent his whole life keeping quiet about what was true, and doing what others told him, even when it wasn't fair to himself. For weeks he read that book during his breaks. He learned he wasn't broken, that he didn't need to be eloquent to make an impact, that he could think clearly, even in the face of fear, and that acting with power wasn't about overpowering others. It was about finally refusing to let the past make decisions for him. He started speaking less, but with purpose. He listened more, trained his mind in silence, and one day someone told him, "You don't say much, but when you do, it hits home." Later, he was invited to speak at a small gathering, then another. Without trying, he started to influence. Because once you find your voice, you don't need to shout to be heard. And Elias, the boy who was silenced by fear, now spoke with purpose, because he had learned to think clearly and act with power. And here's the most powerful part. He never left that building. He didn't change jobs. He changed himself, because he was no longer the scared child who only spoke when allowed. He was the man who, after mastering his mind, began to master his life. Now that you know his story, tell me this. How much of Elias is in you? How many times have you stayed silent out of fear? How many of your decisions has your past made for you? If you're ready to take back your voice, your clarity, and your power, stay with us. Because this isn't just another video. It's a declaration of war against the version of yourself you no longer want to be. Let's begin. Before we continue, if this content is bringing you value, consider subscribing and becoming an exclusive member to access unique benefits. And tell us in the comments, what decision are you going to make today to think more clearly, speak with more intention, or act with more power? Or simply write, I am a Stoic. From today on, I let my mind clear, my voice strengthen, and my actions speak for me. That will be your commitment to yourself. 1. Feed yourself what makes you wiser. Tell me something, my friend. Do you really want to speak clearly, think with focus, and make strong decisions? Then why do you spend your day watching dog videos, pointless debates, and celebrity gossip? Do you really think someone can build a powerful mind by feeding it nothing but noise? Of course not, and you know it. But still, every time you have 5 free minutes, you open your phone and dive into that spiral that drains your energy, your presence, and your vision. And then you wonder why it's so hard to speak with conviction, make confident decisions, or simply think clearly when life gets tough. Let me put it like this. You can't cook a flavorful dish with expired or low-quality ingredients. Your mind works the same way. If all you consume is shallow entertainment, memes, internet drama, and empty quotes, what do you expect to come out when it's time to say something meaningful, make a decision, or act with purpose? Maybe this has happened to you before. You try to give advice to a friend who's going through something, and all that comes out is some recycled phrase from Instagram, something like, everything happens for a reason, or the universe has a plan. And right then you can feel it. It sounds empty, doesn't it? Like you're repeating something you don't even fully believe yourself. Or you're in a deep conversation, and just when you want to contribute something powerful, all you've got is a surface-level comment, and you realize there's nothing solid inside, nothing that's really your own, just scattered ideas from others. Imagine Marcus Aurelius looking at your YouTube history, another hour of TikTok fails, and you wonder why you have nothing to say in a serious discussion. It's not that there's anything wrong with unwinding now and then, but when the superficial takes up more space than the essential, you start to feel the consequences. You can't think clearly, you don't know what to say, you don't even know why you're doing what you're doing. Epictetus said, "No man can learn what he thinks he already knows." And Ryan Holiday, author of Ego is the Enemy and the Obstacle is the Way, explains it perfectly. Feeding your mind is like training your body. If you eat junk, you feel slow, weak, low on energy. The same thing happens with your thinking. It's not magic, it's mental nutrition. So if you really want to speak with intention, think with focus, and act with power, ask yourself, are you feeding your mind like someone who wants to grow, or like someone who just wants to be distracted? It's time to transform your mind. The first step might not be easy, but I know you can do it. Create a mental diet. Just like you take a break from sugar or alcohol, you can take a break from digital noise. Choose one day a week to unplug from social media and instead listen to a good podcast, read a few pages from a challenging book, or watch a talk that really makes you think. You wouldn't believe how much your energy shifts when you do this. Also, every night, write down one valuable idea you learned that day, just one, but one that you can explain. This trains your mind to observe and filter what really matters. After a month, you'll have an arsenal of ideas that actually build you from within. Because I'm going to tell you the truth, plain and simple. You can't speak with purpose if you have nothing valuable inside. You can't think clearly if your mind is overloaded with noise. And you definitely can't act with power if what's inside you is weak, vague, or borrowed. So next time you open your phone, ask yourself this question like a mantra. Is this building me, or is it draining me? Because only when you feed yourself with wisdom will your mind begin to think clearly, your voice start to sound firm, and your actions finally begin to change your life. 2. Silence the noise that dims your power. Picture this. You're at your desk trying to finish a report for your boss. The deadline is today. You sit down, take a breath, open the document, and there's a dirty mug on the table, your phone vibrates, someone walks by talking loudly, You check your email and see 5 urgent messages. You suddenly remember you didn't buy what you need for dinner. And to top it off, it's hot. How are you not supposed to freeze up? That's not a space for thinking. It's a trap for losing yourself. And the truth is, it's not just the external chaos. It's what we carry inside. The information overload, the unresolved conversations, the apps running in the background, the comparisons that sneak in when you're not looking. Your mind right now is like an old computer. You double-click, try to open 2 tabs, and it crashes. That's exactly what's happening to you. And meanwhile, life keeps moving, and you're standing still, without direction. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." And do you know what he did? He didn't live chasing other people's approval. He pulled back, observed, spoke little. He preferred to seem strange rather than lose his center, because he knew that if your mind isn't calm, everything you do will be a reaction, not a decision. And you can start today, if you're truly ready to think clearly and act with strength. How? With simple but powerful things. First, try the monk hour. Don't worry, you don't have to head for the mountains. It's just 1 hour a day. No phone, no talking, no music, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. You can walk, sit in silence, write, stare out the window, doesn't matter. What matters is that you shut off the external noise so you can start hearing what's going on inside. It's tough at first, but soon it becomes a refuge. Second, take inspiration from something Cal Newport, author of Deep Work, talks about. He calls it deep work, and it's not just theory. It's about creating blocks of time where you completely eliminate distractions. Leave your phone in another room. Close every browser tab except the one you need. Set a 30-minute timer and just do that one thing. Just that. You can call it your power block, 1 per day. That alone will start training your mind to stop living in a scattered state. And if you're still not sure what you can gain from silencing the noise, listen to the story of Rich Roll. He was a lawyer, a father, and unfortunately, he fell into addiction. You'd think that was the end, that he'd stay stuck, but he made it out. And do you know how that change started? It wasn't with big goals or motivational speeches. It started with silence. Rich decided to step away for a few days. No people, no phones, no social media. Just him, nature, a notebook, and his mind. At first, it was unbearable. He didn't know what to do with all that space, all that inner noise. But slowly, that silence started to reorganize him from the inside out. He began to think more clearly, to remember who he was and where he wanted to go. He came back a different man, and from there, he began building a completely new life. Today, he's one of the most influential voices in health and personal growth. But it all started with something as simple as disconnecting from the world to reconnect with himself. I know, you're not an athlete and you don't need to escape to some remote cabin. You know what you do need? A moment to listen to yourself without noise. And I'll be blunt. You can't speak with purpose if your words come from a saturated mind. You can't think clearly if you spend the entire day absorbing noise from the outside. And you definitely can't act with power if every little thing around you is stealing your focus. So, my friend, tell us in the comments, what are you going to do to shut out the noise around you and start truly listening to yourself? Because in that silence you keep avoiding, that's where the power you've been looking for is hiding. 3. Organize your thoughts before you act. Picture an elite team of soldiers inside a helicopter, seconds away from jumping. The wind crashes against the open door. The blades thunder in their ears. The mission is on. They're trained, prepared, armed. But right before they leap into the unknown, they don't shout, they don't rush, there's no panic. What they do is stop, breathe, visualize, in silence. Each one mentally goes through every step, because they know that if they jump with a chaotic mind, the body won't respond. And in their world, a mistake doesn't mean I'll try again tomorrow. It comes with a cost. This isn't a movie scene, it's real. Admiral William H. McRaven, one of the most respected leaders in special operations, tells it just like that. He used to say that a seal who hasn't organized his thoughts before acting is a seal who can blow the entire mission. So let me ask you this: if they, in life or death situations, don't allow themselves to act without mental clarity, why should you? Mental clarity doesn't come from thinking more. It comes from thinking better. It's useless to have a head full of ideas if none of them are clear. A scattered mind is like an orchestra with no conductor. You can have the best musicians, the best instruments, but if the one leading is lost, all you'll hear is noise. Epictetus said it plainly. It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. That phrase may seem simple, but it's a key, because if you learn to examine your thoughts, if you can filter your judgments, you can completely change how you respond to life. And do you know how he did it? He wrote. He looked at every thought as if it wasn't his. He analyzed it. He didn't trust his first impression. That's what kept him in control. Now imagine this, my friend. You've had an idea circling your mind for a while. A dream, a project, something that excites you, and you finally decide to go for it. You make plans, get things ready, but when the moment comes, you don't know where to start. You hesitate. You change your mind. You freeze. Has it happened to you? I'm sure it has. And it's not because you lack talent, it's because your thoughts aren't aligned. And when your mind is confused, your actions get blocked. That's why, if you truly want to act with power and confidence, you need to train something most people never do: mental order. Here are 3 steps that can help. First, every time a negative thought hits you, ask yourself this: is this a fact or just an assumption? It might sound silly, but most of our worries come from things we believe without evidence. And when you write them down or say them out loud, you realize how weak they actually are. Second, do a daily mental check. Take 3 minutes at night to jot down the thoughts, emotions, or ideas that came up the most during the day. That's it. You don't even have to analyze them right then. But if you do it for a week, you'll start to see patterns. And once you see them, you can start to change them. Third, before making an important decision, don't jump in blindly. Do this. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself 3 key questions. 1. What exactly am I feeling right now? 2. What part of this is a fact and what part is just my own assumption? 3. What outcome am I really looking for with this decision? It won't take you more than a minute. But that minute could be the difference between moving forward with confidence or falling back into reaction mode. Because many times it's not that we make bad decisions, it's that we make them from a place of chaos, from unchecked emotion, from scattered thoughts that pull us instead of guide us. And remember this: emotions without examination are like horses without a rider. They can take you far, but you won't know where. And if what you want is to act with power, then you'd better be the one holding the reins. 4. Stop living like you're still the same person you were yesterday. My friend, let me ask you something. Do you still believe you're bad at public speaking because of one presentation that went badly 5 years ago? Do you think you can't make good decisions because you messed up once and someone made you feel terrible about it for months? But what if you're no longer that person? What if the only thing tying you to that weaker, wounded version of yourself is the fact that you still believe you live there? So often, we don't move forward because we're still walking in the shoes of a self that no longer exists. You carry around old ideas about who you are, things that might have once been true, sure, but now only hold you back. Like that voice in your head that says, "I've always been really insecure," or "I'm not the type who speaks up." And the real issue isn't just that you believe it. The issue is that you repeat it every day, like it's your personal motto. Nature can explain this better than I can. If a snake doesn't shed its skin, it suffocates under its own growth. You know why? Because its body keeps growing, but the old skin stays stuck, squeezing, choking. The same thing happens to you when you cling to an outdated identity. If you don't let go of who you were, you end up stuck inside. And a stuck mind can't shine, can't speak with clarity, can't act with power. Joe Dispenza, a neuroscientist who spent years studying the mind-body connection, explains something that might open your eyes. He talks about how the body becomes so used to an emotion, like fear or insecurity, that it starts to repeat it on autopilot, even after your situation has changed. He calls it an addiction to the old self. For example, someone who spent years feeling invisible might improve, grow, succeed, but their body still reacts the same when they walk into a room full of people. They look down, shrink, as if their body hasn't gotten the message that it no longer has to hide. But it can change. You just have to decide that the old version of you no longer gets to run the show. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Each day tell yourself, today I will face intrusion, ingratitude, arrogance." But what's most impressive isn't that he recognized those things. It's that he still chose day after day who he wanted to be. He didn't let the outside world or his past define him. So now I'll ask you, do you want to be like him? Or do you want to keep living as the automatic version you've been dragging along for years? I know you'll choose the first one. So here are a few ideas to help you shift the way you see and speak to yourself. Make a list of outdated beliefs. Write it down, on paper or on your phone. I'm no longer someone who needs approval to feel valid. I'm no longer the one who stays quiet in meetings. It doesn't matter if you don't fully believe it yet. Write from the version of you that you want to become, not the one you used to be. Every morning when you look in the mirror, ask yourself, what part of me needs to die today so something better can be born? Maybe it's the need to please, the fear of failure, or the habit of hiding what you really think. And start talking about yourself in the present tense. Instead of saying, "I've always been bad at this," say, "I'm learning to get better at this." The language you use to describe yourself shapes your identity more than you think. Stop describing yourself as if you are your past, because you're not. If you truly want to think clearly and act with strength, you can't keep living with your mind tied to an outdated version of who you are. Your power lies in what you choose today, not in what went wrong yesterday. Tell us in the comments, what part of you are you ready to leave behind so you can start speaking with purpose, thinking clearly, and acting with power? That decision might just be the beginning of your new life. 5. Surround yourself with energy that amplifies your voice. I'm going to tell you something you probably didn't expect to hear today. You are a flower. Yeah, I know, it sounds weird, but hear me out. You could be the best seed with the brightest colors and the strongest roots, but if you're planted in dry soil, without light or water, you won't bloom. You're surrounded by shade when what you really need is sun. And that, my friend, is exactly what happens when you share your life with people who dim your light, drain your energy, or outright sabotage every attempt you make to move forward. Epictetus said it clearly, almost like he was speaking to you directly. Avoid the company of those who are always complaining. Because yes, constant complaining is contagious. And if you surround yourself with people who only see problems, sooner or later, you'll start seeing them too, even if they don't exist. You fill up with doubt, you shrink, you start speaking softer, second-guessing every move, like you need someone's permission just to be yourself. There's a quote from Tom Bilyeu, founder of Impact Theory, that's worth keeping front and center in your life. Your environment programs you. Either you choose it or someone else will choose it for you. And he's absolutely right. He talks about building what he calls an anti-fragile environment. It's not just about surrounding yourself with people who cheer you on. It's about being with those who challenge you. People who aren't afraid when you fall, who won't let you stay down, who push you to learn and grow. And that can be the difference between continuing to rise or staying stuck in the most comfortable, dimmed-down version of yourself. Now picture this. You decide to sign up for singing lessons. Not because you want to be famous, but because it excites you, because it connects you to yourself. You're pumped, you make the time, you go to your first class, and you leave glowing. That night, you tell your family or friends about it. One makes fun of you, another says it's a waste of time, and someone else just shrugs it off. And without realizing it, you start thinking, maybe they're right. A month later, you quit. Not because it wasn't worth it. You quit because your environment drained your drive. If you're in a situation like that, what can you do? Start with a social audit like an inspector on a mission. Grab a notebook or just open your phone and ask yourself, who makes me feel more alive after a conversation? And who leaves me drained, confused, or insecure? Don't let habit fool you. Be honest. Sometimes the person who dims your light the most is the one closest to you. You need to see that to start changing it. Then, make a simple trade. Swap 1 hour with someone who pulls you down for 1 hour with something that lifts you up. If you can't avoid seeing that person, at least balance it out. Listen to an inspiring podcast, something that gives you new ideas, that reminds you of who you want to be. There are thousands out there. You just have to look, and above all, dare to be the weird one in your group. The one who puts the phone down to read, the one who doesn't gossip, the one who takes care of themselves. Because so often, that thing that makes you different is exactly what will pull you out of average. If you truly want to transform your life from the inside out, you need to surround yourself with people, ideas, and energy that light you up, that help you think clearly, and that push you to act with intention. Because no one builds a meaningful life in an environment that drains their soul. It's your call. 6. Train your mind like a muscle. Many years ago, high on a hill in Japan, lived a samurai master whom everyone sought for guidance. One day, a young apprentice climbed to his temple, determination written all over his face, carrying a question he couldn't hold back any longer. Master, how long will it take me to master the sword if I train every single day? The master looked at him calmly and replied, 10 years. The young man, eager and impatient, pushed again. And if I train twice as long each day? And the master, without hesitation, answered, then it will take you 20, because the more desperate you are to arrive, the further you are from doing it right. And your mind works the same way. If you don't train it patiently, if you overload it expecting instant results, you don't get stronger. You get clumsier. You've probably felt it yourself. You read a self-help book, meditate for 5 minutes, do a little journaling, and the next day, you expect total clarity, perfect focus, and a bulletproof mind. But no, of course it doesn't work like that. It's like going to the gym one time and then standing in front of the mirror, expecting new muscles to appear. The difference is, with your body, you laugh at that idea, but with your mind, you get frustrated when the results don't show up instantly. And that's where you're going wrong. Seneca said it clearly centuries ago. Difficulty strengthens the mind as labor does the body. But imagine Seneca saying that after 5 minutes of thinking on a Monday morning, then spending the rest of the day lying on the couch. Ridiculous, right? He wrote, reflected, questioned, applied every single day. Not because he was some enlightened being, but because he knew the mind also needs repetition, training, exposure, just like any muscle. And be mindful of what you're training. David Epstein, author of Range, Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World, found something fascinating. The most successful people aren't those who specialize from a young age, but those who explore many areas, who train their minds through curiosity. They don't just read about one thing, they dive into many. They change paths when needed, and that gives them something even more valuable than experience: adaptability. Because someone who trains their mind to face the unknown can think clearly even in chaos. And that, my friend, is power. Want to start truly training your mind? Here are 3 simple, effective ideas. First, create a routine of exposure. No, I'm not asking you to move to a monastery. Relax. Just do one uncomfortable thing each day for 2 minutes. Cold water. Total silence. Send that message you've been avoiding. Speak up when you usually stay quiet. It's just 2 minutes, but your mind starts learning it can push through discomfort. And that changes everything. Second, try the 5x5 technique. 5 minutes, 5 times a day, completely focused on a single task. No multitasking. Turn off notifications, set a timer, and do only that. That's how you train focus. Not with a 1-hour meditation once a month, but with small, consistent reps. And finally, shift from a results mindset to a reps mindset. Don't ask yourself if it worked. Ask yourself if you did it. Because every time you choose to train your mind, you're building something, even if you don't see it yet. Even if no one's clapping for you yet. The power you're building inside, it shows up later when you speak with intention, when your thoughts are quiet, when your actions are sure. My friend, burn this into your brain. If you don't train your mind, it will train you. But be careful. It won't train you to be stronger, it'll train you to be comfortable. And comfort doesn't win battles. If you want to live with direction, speak with purpose, think clearly, and act with power, start today with what you have, because your greatest tool has always been your mind. You just need to teach it not to give up so easily. 7. Learn not to react. Picture an open field. The tension is thick. You can almost feel it in the air. An archer stands ready, bow loaded, eyes locked in, muscles tight, and suddenly, without pausing, without adjusting, he lets the string go. The arrow slices through the air and vanishes into the void. He's missed. Why? Because he fired before aiming with calm. And your mind works exactly the same way. When you react without thinking, you're not making decisions. You're shooting arrows blind. I've done it too, don't think I haven't. Once at work, my boss made a comment that hit me harder than I expected. Looks like you're getting a bit too comfortable, huh? It wasn't a shout, not even an insult, but it got under my skin. I felt judged. My blood boiled. And without thinking much, I requested a transfer. I did it as a show of dignity. And the very next day, I regretted it. I had reacted in the heat of the moment, without pause, without a plan. I'd fired the arrow before even seeing the target. My friend, clarity doesn't come from impulse. It comes from the pause, that brief second between what happens to you and what you do next. That's where your real power hides. Because when you act from anger, from offense, from insecurity, it's not you speaking, it's your wound yelling. Picture this. You're eating peacefully, and a friend, half joking, throws out, "You always pick the worst partners, that's why it never works out for you." You laugh on the outside, but inside, every trigger lights up. You've got a comeback on the tip of your tongue, locked and loaded. But you pause for just a second, 1 second, and you ask yourself, is this arrow worth firing? Seneca said, "He who is capable of being angry with reason is also capable of not being angry." That's a line worth tattooing. Because real power isn't about ignoring how you feel. It's about not letting your feelings make choices for you. Seneca wasn't made of stone, but before he spoke, he observed. Before he responded, he breathed. He understood perfectly that a calm mind has more strength than 100 impulses. And if you want to act with strength and speak with purpose, you need to train yourself not to get dragged into every provocation. Let me share 3 ideas that have helped me keep the bow steady until it's truly time to shoot. One powerful trick is switching from attack mode to observer mode. Before you say anything, take 3 breaths. Just that. 3 slow breaths. In that small space, most of the tension dissolves, and something wiser starts to surface. You can also try the emotional silence rule. Don't respond to anything important if you're hurt, exhausted, or emotionally stirred up. No messages, no decisions, no arguments. If your body is worn out or your heart is bruised, whatever you say in that moment probably won't be fair to you or to the other person. And there's a simple but powerful tool, a shield phrase, something you can say to create an intentional pause. I hear you. Let me think about it. Let's talk later. You're not avoiding the moment. You're choosing not to react, so you can respond with clarity. Because in the end, if you don't control your reactions will control you. And trust me, living like that is no different from firing arrows with your eyes closed. Tell us in the comments, what's the situation that challenges you most when it comes to staying calm? Because that moment, That tiny space between stimulus and response could be the very place where your real power begins. 8. Speak with purpose. Ah, my friend, speaking with purpose. Sounds tough, right? Like something only wise people or great speakers are capable of. But in reality, speaking with purpose has nothing to do with having a perfect voice or knowing how to drop clever one-liners. It's about something far more powerful, knowing where you're speaking from and why. Let me tell you the exact moment I learned this myself. I was once invited to speak to a group of teenagers. Just imagine. Intimidating, right? I was so nervous I had everything ready, key ideas, punchy lines, even a few well-timed jokes to get them to laugh. But the moment I stepped into that room, something changed. Maybe it was the silence, their serious faces, or that weird energy you feel when people are there because they have to be. Whatever it was, I knew instantly. What I had prepared didn't fit. What they needed wasn't a textbook speech. It was something real, honest, something that would actually reach them. So I closed my notes and spoke from the heart. That day, I finally understood what it means to speak with purpose. Speaking with purpose isn't about sounding polished. It's not about saying things that sound wise. It's about saying something that comes from within and has direction, an intention, something that rises from silence, not from noise. And that's why not everyone who speaks loudly carries authority. Not everyone who talks a lot is actually saying something real. These days, everyone wants to say something. On social media, in group chats, in meetings, opinions everywhere, but very few voices that carry weight. Why? Because most people speak out of impulse, ego, or fear of staying silent. But someone who has done the inner work doesn't need to shout to be heard. Epictetus said it best. First learn the meaning of what you say and then speak. It sounds obvious, but if we truly followed that rule, the world would be a lot wiser and a lot quieter. Do you think Epictetus would jump into a Twitter debate at 3 a.m. with someone whose profile picture is an anime character? Spoiler alert, absolutely not. Because he knew that speaking without purpose drains your energy, and it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Vanessa Van Edwards, an expert in body language, breaks this down in her book Cues. She talks about the power of micro-gestures, how a steady gaze, a firm posture, or a well-placed pause can carry more weight than 1,000 empty words. Because when you're calm on the inside, it shows on the outside. The way you speak changes, your tone, your rhythm, your message. So how do you speak with purpose in real life? Here are 3 ideas you can start using today. First, ask yourself a triple question before you speak. Is it true? Is it useful? Is this the right moment? If the answer is no, why say it? Let's say someone invites you out, but you don't feel like it. So you come up with an excuse that not even your grandma would believe. But what if instead you spoke with honesty and purpose? I need to rest today, but thanks for thinking of me. Director, real, clear. Second, train your silence mode. When you feel like speaking just to show off, just to throw in your opinion or just to get the last word, stay quiet. Not out of fear, but out of awareness. Then, when you genuinely feel you can add value, that's when you speak. From your center, not from a reaction. And finally, try this exercise. It's almost a game, but it works wonders. Speak as if you could only say 10 sentences a day. Just 10. Try it one morning. You'll notice how much more intentional and selective you become. You'll make every word count. Maybe you don't need to tell that piece of gossip. Maybe you don't need to over-explain yourself. Maybe, with less, you'll say more. Because your words can be daggers or bridges. They can lift someone up or tear them down. They can shift the entire tone of a conversation, or leave it empty. You decide whether to build or destroy. But remember this, my friend. The one who masters their voice has already conquered their mind, and the one who's conquered their mind is ready to speak with purpose, think clearly, and act with power to achieve anything they set out to do. 9. Think with clarity. My friend, thinking clearly doesn't mean having 1,000 brilliant ideas a minute. It means knowing how to choose which idea deserves your attention and which one is just another bark echoing in the background noise. Let's say it straight. An untrained mind is like a flashlight covered in dust in a pitch-dark room. You can turn it on all you want, but you won't see a thing. Clean it, focus it, and suddenly, that same light becomes a guide. Has this ever happened to you? You wake up with the intention to finally move forward on something important. You want to write that email, make that decision you've been putting off, start that exciting project, but then everything shows up at once. What if it's not the right time? What if I fail again? What if there's something I haven't considered? What if? And just like that, you spend the whole day thinking, but not thinking clearly. That's not reflection, that's overload. It's mental noise pretending to be productivity. Like having 1,000 tabs open in your browser but no idea which one is draining the battery. Because clarity isn't about speed, it's about precision. And that's something Shane Parrish, creator of Farnham Street, a project that helps thousands of people think better, explains beautifully with what he calls mental models. One of his most powerful principles is this: clarity isn't about thinking faster, it's about thinking better. You know what can help when your mind starts to get tangled? It might sound funny, but seriously ask yourself, what would a Stoic do right now? And I don't mean quoting Marcus Aurelius like you're in a philosophy class. I mean actually applying what he'd do. A Stoic doesn't get dragged around by mental chaos. So picture him beside you, calmly asking, what matters right now? That question isn't just helpful. It's a sharp tool to cut through the noise and return to the present. Use it whenever your thoughts start pulling you in 10 directions at once. Want to apply another very Stoic move? Simplify anything unnecessary so you can think clearly about what actually matters. And this isn't just some detail, it's a game changer. If you're wasting mental energy deciding what to eat for breakfast or which shirt to wear, you're stealing that energy from the decisions that really move your life forward. A Stoic doesn't get overwhelmed by nonsense. That's why eliminating small choices is a modern way of training the mind to focus. Automate the basics. Decide once, then repeat. Your brain will thank you. And what if you made your mind like a lake? How long would it take to calm after each thought, each impact? Because as long as you keep throwing stones into the water, you won't see the bottom. And without a bottom, there's no direction. Without direction, there's no action. And without clear action, my friend, it's impossible to speak with purpose, think with clarity, or act with power to achieve what you set out to do. So start today, let your mind breathe, and little by little you'll see the waters clear. My friend, we've gone through powerful tools so far, but listen closely, because what's coming next is on another level. It's not just another habit, it's the piece that holds everything else together. Ignore it, and you'll be left with good intentions and zero results. But apply it, and you'll begin to move with a different kind of force. Let's go. 10. Act with power. There comes a moment when thinking about it just isn't enough. When reading one more book, taking more notes, or waiting to feel more confident no longer adds anything. Because eventually, my friend, you're faced with only two choices. Either you move, or you stay exactly where you are. That's it. No fluff. And that moment is now. Acting with power doesn't mean having everything under control. It means moving forward even when you don't know how things will turn out. It's taking the step even when your mind is begging you to wait. It's doing what you said you would, even if you're scared, because airplanes don't take off with the wind at their back. They take off against it. And if you're waiting for the perfect conditions, you'll never fly. You'll never see yourself clearly, never speak with that kind of strength that inspires, never make the decisions that truly change your life. Do you know the story of Madame C.J. Walker? She's a perfect example of what it means to act with power. She was born on a plantation in Louisiana, at a time when being a woman and African American was practically a life sentence of silence. She lost her parents at 7, worked as a laundress for just a few cents, And still, she built her own hair care empire and became the first self-made African-American woman millionaire in the US. Do you think she waited for everything to be perfect before taking action? Of course not. She did what she could with what she had. And that was her power. Now tell me, how many times have you known exactly what you wanted to say, do, or change, and still did nothing because it wasn't the right time? Because you were scared, because you wanted more clarity, because you thought you weren't ready. But what if acting with power isn't about waiting to be ready, but choosing to move even when you're not? Marcus Aurelius wrote one of those phrases that needs no explanation. Don't talk about it, do it. So if you're ready to make your move, here are a few ways to start today. First, use what I call the rule of one. One decision, one action, 1 hour a day. If you want to break out of paralysis, don't try to do everything at once. Just choose one thing that moves you closer to what you want, and do it. That's it. 1 hour for you. No excuses, no distractions, just intention. Second, try the 2% rule. Feeling overwhelmed by a huge goal? Perfect. Just do 2% of it today. Write 1 page if you want to write a book. Do a short workout if you want to get in shape. Send a message if there's someone you've been meaning to talk to. You don't need to do it all, but do something. 2% might seem small until you do it every day. Third, remember this phrase. It changed my life. If it scares you, do it scared. Nobody's asking you to sprint. You can go slow, you can shake, you can doubt. Just don't stop. Because confidence doesn't come before action. It's the result of action, built over time. And here's the truth. Power doesn't show up in what you say or what you think. It shows up in what you do when no one's watching. In that promise you made to yourself and kept. In that hard decision you finally stop postponing. In that step you take today, with no guarantees, but full conviction. Because if you really want to speak with purpose, think clearly, and act with power to build the life you dream of, you need to move, even if you're not ready, even if you're full of doubts, even if your voice shakes. Because the only thing standing between you and the life you want is one action. Just one. And that, my friend, is entirely up to you. Speaking with purpose, thinking with clarity, and acting with power. It's a daily practice. It's not a finish line you cross once and forget about. It's a way of living. Every time you choose silence over noise, every time you organize your thoughts before reacting, every time you move forward even when you don't feel ready, you're training your character. You're becoming someone stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. And yes, sometimes it will feel slow, like nothing's happening. But that's where the magic is, in the invisible, in what's being forged inside you without making a sound. Because real power doesn't need to be shouted. It shows up in how you think, in how you speak, in the way you choose to act even when no one's watching. If you've made it this far, tell us in the comments. I'm building my power from within. That way, I'll know who the true Stoic warriors are who made it to the end. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a like so you don't miss out on what's coming next. I also invite you to check out our playlist, which you'll see on the screen. It's packed with ideas, stories, and advice to help you navigate life with more wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep moving forward together. Until next time, take care and keep embracing your inner Stoic.